This episode was super fun, and I did really enjoy this episode. However, my only thing is that I felt this episode should have appeared around Valentine's Day. A lot of the thematics seen in this episode seem more like a Valentine's Day episode. However, like I say, I did really enjoy the episode itself. Team Arrow is... So, the story is that Team Arrow investigate a new archer who has come to Starling City and has a massive obsession with Arrow. Meanwhile, Felicity goes on a work date type thing with Ray Palmer, whilst Roy Harper deals with having killed a cop. In the flashbacks, Oliver and Katana try to look for Katana's husband, who has gone missing. The archer in question, which I don't think I mentioned, is called Cupid. Now, Cupid is a character in the DC Comics who does actually have an obsession with Green Arrow, and is primarily one of Green Arrow's villains in the pre-New 52. I think Cupid actually really fits into the Arrow universe, both thematically and story-wise. Because of what's going on with Oliver Queen in this season, Oliver Queen has to struggle with not being able to have a personal life, not being able to act as Oliver Queen. As I say, Cupid just really fits right into that story. Because, of course, Cupid has this obsession with Oliver Queen. We learn that Cupid was actually saved by Arrow in the finale of Season 2, which began her obsession with Oliver Queen. And in the last episode, she killed Ted Grant's sidekick, and left clues for Oliver to find. She's a very creepy character, actually. She has many different sides to her personality. And weirdly enough, she reminds me a lot of the Riddler character. With her need to be noticed, with her leaving clues. For some reason, it just really reminded me of that character. But again, Cupid is very different. And she felt like... I would argue that she is a better character for Oliver. To have these kind of parallels with. Like, the Huntress is supposed to be the opposite of Oliver Queen. And one of the themes of Batman, actually, is how Batman creates his own villains. And that seems to be what Oliver Queen is kind of doing. Like, the more Oliver Queen acts as this character, as Arrow, the more people that are beginning to follow in his footsteps. And it's particularly interesting with what Oliver Queen is going through right now, because Oliver Queen actually wants to get away from Arrow, and it's just, there are such interesting themes going on there. It's also established in this episode that Oliver actually really does love Felicity. And he wants to fall in love with her, but Cupid is a representation of why he can't. The lifestyle of a superhero affects everyone around the hero, which to me is a great theme. When Oliver and at the end of the episode, it's really sad when Oliver finally does decide to tell Felicity. He's already too late for to tell her how he feels, and it's a very heartbreaking moment of the episode. Ray Palmer is also becoming a very interesting character, and it seems to be playing a long game. His motives aren't really revealed to us, and we don't actually know what he's after. But on the surface, it feels like Ray Palmer is sort of taking over Oliver Queen's life a little bit, and he's actively pursuing Felicity. Here's the problem. I don't understand why Felicity is acting the way that she's acting when around Ray Palmer. Felicity is very loyal to Oliver, and I slightly question, why is Felicity acting like she's dazzled by a man who is taking over her best friend's life? Basically, because Felicity is not the kind of girl who acts like that. She's not the kind of girl who gets razzled and dazzled by pearls and beautiful dresses. I acknowledge that Felicity is a girl. She is a girl, and she can do girly stuff. I completely acknowledge that as a story. But what I don't understand, though, is why she's acting in that kind of manner. The bit that I really found interesting about Ray Palmer was the development of the Atom suit. And it looks like the Atom suit's gonna kind of have this Iron Man suit-esque type feel to it. I'm really interested about what Ray Palmer is going to do with this suit, and what his motivations are. Now, as for the flashbacks, I really liked the flashbacks, the flashback scenes between Oliver and Katana. The two actors just had great moments together, and I like seeing Oliver look at Katana's family with this secret wish that he had one too. It's clear that the family aspects are informing Oliver's decision in the present, and Oliver's decision not to fall in love, not to be Oliver Queen. And my theory is that Katana's family is going to get destroyed, and that will severely impact Oliver Queen. Finally, I loved the fight scenes between Cupid and A.R.G.U.S. It was a great scene and very fun to watch. I also like the fact that A.R.G.U.S is still highly skilled than Cupid. And I also felt that, like, Oliver and Roy had some great moments in this episode also. Yeah, this episode has to be my favourite so far, for Arrow. I will be honest, I have been a little bit disappointed with this season. It hasn't been the most strongest of seasons. This episode was definitely one of the highlights for me. So I'm RubberNuts1 here, and I shall see you later for another Arrow review. Bye.